We all have a story to tell. A gem of wisdom, a little tale, or just something to make you laugh. Do you want to hear some? Then welcome to Anecdotes. Welcome back to Anecdotes. Today we are speaking to filmmaker and director Ryan Shovey. Ryan, I wanted you to tell me about your new film, Hunter.
Okay. Hunter is, I would describe it as a slasher film made by slasher fans, for slasher fans. It's really our homage to the classic slasher films, taking it back away from this kind of torture porn, kind of gore subgenre that's created these days, like Saw and Hostel and those kind of movies. Taken away from that and bring in the suspense back, the actual thriller, I would say, from some of the films that I grew up with. I didn't really grow up with them, but because they were all made before I was born. But they were some of my favorites growing up, like Halloween, Carpenter's Halloween, or Hitchcock's Psycho, that kind of stuff. But we wanted to put together this story. Actually, my writer who wrote it, Ross Alanya, his biggest influence was Scream. So, because that was kind of his generation growing up with that. My generation was growing up with Nightmare on Elm Street in the 80s and that kind of stuff. So I really wanted to make a good, just classic slasher film, monster versus innocent victim type thing. Now, the short itself really is the opening 11 minutes of our feature film. So we're using that to kind of create funding and interest to create the rest of the film. So it kind of ends on a cliffhanger. But so our hero, unfortunately, doesn't prevail. But which is interesting.
Right.
But it's
Well, how long is the feature going to be?
The feature's, it's a 95-page script, so it's going to be a good 95-minute movie. Full length. We wanted to make it pretty short, but not too short. Not too long. Wanted to make it a good classic slasher. Again, we went with we figured out how long was Halloween. Halloween was around 90 minutes, 100 minutes, somewhere in there. So that was kind of our jumping off point.
Well, what is your favorite horror film?
My favorite horror film is Nightmare on Elm Street.
Why?
I would say the biggest reason was because it affected me so much as a child. I remember being in the 12, 13-year-old years and waking up in the middle of the night and running to my parents' bedroom and having to sleep on the floor because I was scared to sleep.
Right, because you can't wake up.
Right.
In Nightmare on Elm Street. That is the scariest part.
Kind of interesting. But and it was crazier because I have very vivid dreams, and my dreams are insane. People cannot decipher my dreams, apparently. But it's I would have dreams with Freddy in them when I'm like 13 years old, and it's just freaking me out, right? So then, as I kind of grew up and grew older, and I'd start to watch it in the daytime, which is a novel thought, right? I'd start to watch Nightmare on Elm Street in the daytime with friends, and we'd start laughing at it and enjoying it, and be like, this is really enjoyable. And then I would just kind of click on it. It was like, it has such an emotional impact with this movie. It's definitely my favorite. I could always sit down and watch it. In fact, a funny story, last year, for about a week, I couldn't sleep. I could not fall asleep for whatever reason. I had terrible insomnia, just couldn't sleep at all. So then one night, I didn't have to do any work or anything, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to chillax and hopefully fall asleep. So I put on Nightmare on Elm Street, just to kind of chillax. I haven't seen it for a while. I keep saying chillax. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Is that modern enough?
Yeah, I totally understand what you're talking about.
Anyways, so so I put on Nightmare on Elm Street to just kind of watch it, fell asleep halfway through, and slept like a baby.
Wow. Is that, yeah.
And I was like...
It put you to sleep.
I was like, who would have thunk it? That would be the movie to get me to finally sleep. But also on top of that, it's an independent classic. I mean, the way that they did things, so cheaply done, still holds to this day. Like there's a scene where Freddy kind of comes through a wall, and he kind of pushes through a wall. And today, like in the remake, they did it all CGI, and it looked really crappy. But they spread out spandex and just leaned against the spandex and lit it like it was a wall, and just did very simple things, like when Johnny Depp dies, they turned the room upside down and just poured the blood down. It's things that I think a lot of studios don't really think about because they think, oh, we could just fix it in CGI. But as an independent thinker, and how can we overcome this and make it look the best that it can look? it really taught me how to overcome a lot of those hurdles to make things really look cool.
Yeah. Well, what kind of techniques in your film did you use that were similar to that?
I'd say, unfortunately, I did have to rely a little bit on CGI, but there's a shot where a knife goes through the boyfriend's neck.
I told you when I watched the film, that just to me just was so striking.
Right,
And the blood splatter.
And in the festivals that we've played and stuff, that's the biggest response. Something as simple as the blood splatter going on her face. You know, the shot of the knife going through the neck is so quick, and then you see the effect of it going on her face. It kind of tricks your brain into thinking it was more brutal than it actually was, which is pretty interesting. Like, that's a lot of stuff that I've learned from those kind of years. But with the knife going through the neck, we put the camera still, locked it down, and then we shot the actor reacting, just, you know, him like reacting, and we had a knife that was like half cut, so it was just the end. So the killer would kind of shove it to the back of his neck, and then we shot another shot of a dummy's head and the real knife going through with blood kind of splattering out the front. And then I just composited them on top of each other.
That looks great. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very, very low budget trick that we did really for no money. I mean,
and that is a terrifying knife.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you know, some knives, I mean, you know, all knives are scary, but that one in particular, it's huge.
We wanted.
How big is that? It's like a 12-inch knife or something. It's giant.
If I had $1 for every question I was asked that, I'd have $1. No, it was. Yeah, we went to a pawn shop one day because we knew we needed to find this really gnarly knife. And we just went there and we looked at all the knives they have, and we looked at hunting knives because Hunter, the title Hunter kind of plays in more in the script. You kind of find out what's going on. There's a old cop in the past who was named Hunter, who, you know, was convicted of killing all these people, and so you got that aspect, but then you got the fact that he's actually hunting people and this big hunting knife. So we figured, we'll call it Hunter. Why not? But anyway, so we found this knife, and we looked at all these different ones, and this one just like the teeth on it looked really great.
Yeah.
You don't really see knives with the holes in the little diamond holes in the middle, which are, you know, really great for I guess tearing through deer flesh.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I don't do it, but
it has a purpose, right?
I guess it has a physical purpose,
right.
But
and if you're going to be a slasher, then that's ideal.
It seems like I would want a knife that would scare somebody. So like we have a great shot of like our actress standing at the door, and then the knife comes through the door. It's like I just imagine that with this knife. It's like it's perfect. It's just such a gnarly, brutal looking knife. Yeah. So we had to get that. Unfortunately, it's not easy to replicate and make it to where it has the mechanisms to where it like folds into itself, because it has those holes in it, and so we have to rely on other ways of around that. But yeah,
that's great.
We just found it in the pawn shop for like, I don't know, $50.
Wow,
something like that.
Well, I noticed some of the shots in there reminded me of Hitchcock. Some you know, there was one particular shot with her eye, like the actress. Was that an homage to Hitchcock, or? Yeah,
we have a lot of shots in there. I'd say the biggest Hitchcock shot that we have in there. There's this one shot of her combing her hair in a mirror, and we're kind of pushing in softly to the mirror because we're focused on the mirror, and that's a very classic Hitchcock shot where everything else is out of focus, but this one small object that we want you to focus on, and then when she turns into camera, we focus to her face. That's a very, very, very classic. I think he's done that in a lot of his films.
And you had a shower scene.
We did have a shower scene,
so that,
which Psycho, of course. Wanted to make sure to be up here, and which the beauty of Psycho is he did all this stuff without showing any nudity, all these different shots, so we kind of wanted to kind of replicate that a little bit, and really pull off that she's really in the shower, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of Hitchcock influence in the way that I shoot things. I would say in this particular short, there's a lot of John Carpenter shots. There's a lot of Kubrick shots that we have. Like there's this one nice shot of the feet of the killer walking, and we're just kind of following in front of him. That's a classy Kubrick shot that he did, a very low angle or low to the ground shot, like he did in The Shining a lot. John Carpenter does a lot of like Dutch angles and just really interesting zoom ins and things like that. But the eye shot in particular, where and I'm not going to tell you where it's at. You have to watch the film to see where this amazing eye shot is. So if you don't see it in the beginning, just keep watching. But
you have to watch for that one.
you have to. Everybody loves that shot.
It's a great shot.
It's a great shot. I mean, everybody comes away saying, "Wow, how did you do that?"
It is a beautiful shot. I won't ask you how you did it because
oh,
I want you to give away all of your secrets.
There's a lot of interesting ways of pulling that off. But yeah, that was definitely influenced by Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And a lot of, I could go into other artsy reasons as to why that would happen, but I just thought it looked cool.
So what sort of projects do you have coming up? What are you looking forward to in the future?
This year, really what we're doing now is we're really trying to push Hunter as a feature film. So that's our biggest thing at the moment. We're about to do a Kickstarter, a campaign to where we can raise some money from all the people who've seen it, all the people who've given us great feedback. Maybe we can help spread the word and raise a little bit of money to finish the feature. That's the first thing on our docket. We would love to have a feature version of this for the festivals this time, I guess at the end of this year or next year. Besides that, just like, honing my craft really is my biggest goal this year. I really want to work on my directing, work with actors more. I have a few different short films that we've written that we're trying to figure out if we want to make them short films, we want to make them a web series, we want to turn them into features. I'm working with writers and trying to figure that out. But that's the biggest thing. I mean, I think a lot of it's going to be web series type stuff. Like on
That's
a weekly
amazing.
basis.
That's a whole new genre that,
It really is. And the biggest thing is building an audience with that,
Mhm.
having something weekly.
Right.
Which or bi-weekly,
Right.
as some shows might be doing
Yes.
right now.
Exciting new
which
shows.
is very fun. But that's the goal. I want to do some narrative stuff. There's a lot of web shows out there that are about filmmaking and tutorials and things like that, which are great. I think there's definitely that audience, and people love this. Watching interviews and such, or I love that, I should say. But I really want to do something with these things that we've been learning, and make something like a weekly narrative like we used to grow up on. I used to grow up on a show called Are You Afraid of the Dark? So I would love to make a show kind of like that for the YouTube generation. At the same time, honing my craft and whoever else's craft who wants to come in and work on it, and that kind of stuff.
That's great. Well, is there a place, website, or any place where people can go and learn more about Hunter?
Yes, for Hunter, you can go to hunter-thefilm.com. And we're building that up to where you're going to be able to see the Kickstarter. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff right on the site. We do a blog on the site. There's bios for the cast and crew right there. Yeah, that's definitely where you can follow Hunter itself. And then you can also follow everything I'm doing at freakdaddyprod.com.
Okay.
Where we do all that stuff as well, blogs. And I do my own little radio show, podcast thing, Movie Makers Talking Movies. So I'm doing that kind of stuff where I'm just talking with different people about things.
That's great. So we can find that on those websites that you just noted. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming in with us today and telling us your anecdotes of the business.
You're very welcome.
And we look forward to seeing the feature film Hunter and all of your other future projects.
Thank you.
We had a great time today with Ryan Shovey, and I'm so glad that he shared his anecdotes with us. And if you want to learn more about his film Hunter, you can go to hunter-thefilm.com, or if you want to just learn more about Ryan, go to freakdaddyprod.com. If you have a story you want to share with us, please go to AnecdotesNOLA at lafilm.net. See you next time.